We're so dead.
Today, for Horror DNA, I am joined by Aaron Koontz, who is a producer, writer, and director. And today we're going to talk about Scare Package 2, RAD CHAD'S REVENGE. Now, the first thing I wanted to do was actually, Horror DNA have already got a written review on their website. And I just wanted to read a little bit of it because I think it just sums the film up so nicely. So it says, regardless of segment, Scare Package 2 is a proverbial metric fuck ton of fun, precisely because it does what good sequels should always do. Turn the volume up to 11 and break the damn knob off. It borders on becoming unhinged at times before barely reining itself in, and I truly appreciate that. With a slew of up-and-coming faces in front of and behind the camera, Scare Package 2 is one of those movies that will be looked back on later as having had a pretty stacked roster and no duds. And isn't that exactly what you want out of a horror comedy anthology? And that was what the review said for the website. And I think that perfectly sums up the anthology. So
oh god, yeah, I mean, that is, it's hard not to just get completely giddy just listening to that. I remember reading the review and I was like, oh, and it's you know, and I'll send them to the team and what's not, but yeah, that one, the proverbial metric fuck ton of fun, I was like, this was our goal, you know. It was just such a great quote, and yeah, that meant a lot. That meant a lot.
Awesome. So it's not just me, it's all of Horror DNA that wanted to, you know, let you know that we really enjoyed your film. So thank you very much for making it in the first place.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, if it wasn't for people being enthusiastic about Scare Package, there wouldn't even be a second film, you know, and I don't even know what I'd be doing as a filmmaker, you know. I mean, this was the movie that transitioned me back into this and kind of reinvigorated my love for all the genre. I mean, I think I was always going to love the genre, but I think the act of actually filmmaking, this is what kind of kept me in the game a little bit. So yeah, so it's special to continue to hear this, and pushes me to want to do more and like bigger and crazier and all that.
Awesome. So that leads me to my first question, which was, did you always know you were going to make a sequel? And if not, how did it come about?
Yeah, definitely did not know. As I was saying, I mean, this was just something that, you know, my first feature was released. My cut was never released to the public. It was a very trying situation. I'm still proud of a lot of what we did, but it wasn't the movie that I wanted it to be, so to say. And I, you know, we had raised a little bit of money, and then the movie got privately financed. It was actually NBC Universal that released it, which is this amazing honor, but it just kind of fell apart after that. And so the money we had raised previously, I was like, look, we've got this tiny bit of money. What can we make that with? You know, what could we spend that on, you know, and still try one more time? And instead of like depending on all these other voices who were just inundating us with all these opinions, we just do what we want to do the way we want to do it, with our friends, our style, our sense of humor, our whole thing. And that became Scare Package, and had no idea what was going to happen. Again, privately financed, Shudder wasn't involved. You know, we got Joe Bob Briggs in, but that's before he had his resurgence, all these things. And I was just like, I hope somebody thinks these stupid ideas I have are funny, and you know, and so much of it too was just an excuse for me to work with like friends of mine and people that I'm like, well, you know, how could we work together? Because at that time, I only wanted to direct, and I wasn't really as interested in producing. So I would produce my own stuff, but that was really it. So, and then I kind of found this love of producing through Scare Package, and was like, oh, I really like fostering this. And it just changed everything. So yeah. And then all of a sudden the movie was a hit somehow. And, you know, its first week on Shudder had huge numbers. And, you know, from there, you know, people have tattoos and they go to conventions and they dress up as Rad Chad, and, you know, and it's like, and there's fan art, and I was like, oh goodness, like we have to do something now. Like this is a thing you know, and we made it so inexpensively that like it's like easy to replicate. Famous last words.
Yeah.
Because this was not easy to make, but we had an idea that I knew we could continue with. And I just took one meeting with Shudder, and literally they were just like, okay, so we want to do a second one. What do you want to do? And I'm like, that's it? Like, that was my pitch? Like, I didn't even pitch you, you know, like it just happened so fast.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And, you know, because I had kind of gotten in with Shudder like at the very, very early days, you know, and when they were still trying to figuring some things out and forge some relationships there. And those have stayed with me to this day. And but yeah, so it just happened so fast. And then all of a sudden, Cameron and I are like, you know, my co-writer and co-creator of the series, we're like, well, what the hell are we going to do? You know, we killed all the people we love in this series, you know, and I never expected this. So we had to kind of scramble, come up with an idea. And I think from there, it really became, the easy answer was go back to the video store and just put tapes in, you know, and we can do that at RAD CHAD'S Horror Emporium, you know. And I was like, well, if that's the easy answer, then you got to throw it out. So now we got to, how do we challenge ourselves? And how do I get excited about how we're going to make this? Because it could have so easily just been this forever thing where you go to this video store and you put in tapes and you watch comedic things, and that still would have been fun. But we had to go further. And then that's, you know, and we went off from there and kind of challenged ourselves to do the craziest thing we could think of within the very, very little money we had. And you know, here we are. It took about a year longer to make than we thought, but you know, we finally got it out.
Was that had you passed all the COVID restrictions when you were making it, or was some of that still in place?
No, we were definitely still in the middle of COVID. We had a lot of COVID issues where, you know, an actor, because some of these things were tied to, like, we couldn't hire a different actor because it's a sequel, so you have people to come back. So someone gets COVID, and it's an ensemble. So I've got, you know, 10 people, especially the main core cast in the core story. You know, you've got 10 people, and it's like they all have to be available at exactly this time. One person gets COVID and it pushes the whole shoot. Then another person gets COVID and pushes the whole shoot. And it became this, like, you know, cat, you know, dog chasing its tail kind of thing. And it just was so, it was very difficult. But thankfully, you know, my company, Paper Street Pictures, we actually were at the forefront of producing during the pandemic. And, you know, we've made like, you know, 10 films since 2020 during this time. And of those films, we were one of the companies, we actually made one of the first films during the pandemic and helped kind of write some of the safe way forward documentation for how to get back to work. So
Awesome.
we were very versed in those processes and what was needed. So thankfully, and, you know, I think through all of our shooting, only one crew member ever had COVID. And that was because of the hotel we were staying at. A person who broke the bubble came from the hotel that we didn't know and got them COVID. That's the only time it ever happened in 10 movies. So we're very proud of that, but it still makes it even more difficult, you know, and everybody, you know, who's making films the past couple years is aware. And but even when we were vaccinated for some of the end shoots, we still, you know, we're still masked up, and you're still socially distancing and doing everything to be as careful as you can. So it still makes it just as hard.
Yeah. I wonder if it will almost become the norm to be that kind of safe on set, because it's not just COVID, there's all kinds of other lurgies and flus and nasty illnesses and whatnot. So now that it's almost got this in place, it might stop wiping an entire crew out with food poisoning and stuff.
Oh no, we've talked about it. I mean, we're sticking with these protocols. I mean, for the most part, like, we're not going to be necessarily testing and all that as much if we don't have to. But, you know, masks are going to be mandated in all of our shoots still. Like, all of these things are going to continue to happen, just because there's ways to work around it. You know, if you need to see the face, you can pull it down, you could talk for that moment. But like, the idea being, and although we didn't allow that, you know, during peak COVID, but I think going forward, we're going to continue to make it happen, because it's just, you know, someone always gets sick, something always happens. And you're right, it's the you know, the random things that happen on a film shoot, the Murphy's Law that's like coming at you. Let's combat that with a mask. You know,
Exactly.
It helps.
It helps. Okay, next question. How did you find the different writers and directors for this particular one?
Yeah, I mean, so we had people that from the first film that we wanted to work with or were on our list, people that we were, had admired their work or we had become friendly with. And Alex Brito, who did Welcome to the 90s, she wrote and directed that segment. She is, best friends with my producing partner, Ashley Sneed. And
Right.
Ashley's like, look, Alex, and Alex had made a short that I loved called Lady Hater. I played a Tribeca. I just thought it was brilliant and so funny. And she's like, hey, what about Alex? It's like, well, what's her, I'm like, look, you gotta love horror. Like we gotta make sure. And she's like, oh no, she's obsessed with horror. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, stop the presses. I want to talk to her. So we started chatting, and immediately I could feel, her passion for the genre and her approach. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, and I kind of, gave her a prompt of, like maybe like a Final Girls, but like talking about the evolution of Final Girls, because we're trying to focus on the 90s and the 2000s. And she got very literal with it, on a New Year's Eve changing and all that, and
Yeah.
was just brilliant. We did bring back one director. We at first we talked about bringing everyone back, but just logistically, it just was so challenging. And then also I was like, I kind of want to, get some fresh faces in there and try some different stuff. But what Anthony Cousins did in the first one was already a sequel. And so much of what we're doing in Scare Package 2 is riffing on the horror sequel. I mean, that's the biggest trope of all. And we're focused on horror tropes. So let's really lean into that and allow him to make a sequel to his sequel in our sequel about sequels. And I was like, okay, this feels very Scare Package world to me. So it's just more ridiculous. So he got his gang back together, and Chelsea and Ryan Shadley, he does his makeup effects, which is brilliant. And Sarah Sharp and Rob Stern, friends that I got to help us kind of put that one together. And then we had Jed Shepard, of course, who you're friends with. And, Jed and I became pals mainly on Twitter and Clubhouse. There was, I think it was like, early 2021 when Clubhouse hit. It was like, oh, I can talk to other horror people. And this was really important to me. I needed it. So we would all get in these rooms together and talk for hours on end. And Jed and I just kind of hit it off. And I remember originally I was talking to him to get me to another filmmaker, and I was trying to pitch them on something. And then, I'm like, wow. And then it didn't work out. And I remember Jed, we're like on a Zoom, and he's like, Aaron, I'm right here, and, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, no, I know, but you're so busy. You got so much going on. I didn't think. He's like, come on, he's like, I would love to do this. And so then we started talking, and I was like, well, let's come up with a cool idea. And I wanted to do something that was, again, you talk about the 90s and 2000s horror. I think J horror was like such a really interesting kind of subgenre, and we wanted to tackle that. So we talked about that, and then him and I, he says that he brought up in interviews that the ghost boy from 3 Men and a Baby, but I swear I brought that up. Whatever, it's fine. Either way, we both share an affinity for this, because I literally had the Laserdisc of 3 Men and a Baby, and my friends came over and we would pause it to get to the ghost, because a VHS you can't like stop it perfectly, and it's like shaky, but Laserdisc changed everything. So I was like, well, this is, and so that's where that kind of came from. And
it's so cool, that one. I love that.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and bringing all the host girls back and everything. I mean, I did say like, look, let's do a Ring spoof of Host. That was my first pitch to him, and like we're just kind of riffing on Host, like it's continuing. But I think he was like, I don't know if Rob and everybody will be cool with that. And I was like, okay, never mind, that's fine. But yeah, so we went a different direction, and I love it. I love what we ended up doing. And then the last segment was something that Cameron and I had written, We're So Dead. And we were trying to find, we went through a couple different directors, but Rachel Wiggins was someone that I met in Spain during the first premiere of Scare Package. We were there at Citrus, and she had a project that played before ours, and we just became friendly there, and and stayed in touch. And once we had brought on Jed, and I was like, hey, we're getting a little global here, and we have something in the UK. Why don't we like do something else, and we could Aussie it up a little bit, and like we could have these, and I that just was fun to me, and just like her sense of humor that she was able to bring to the script and do a little touch up on some things I thought was really fun. And God, I mean, we have amazing actors in this movie. So I'm so proud of all the people we brought. But I will say, like, those handful of kids, I think are just so wonderful and just bring such a levity, especially when you get toward the end of the film. And it was really special. But that's credit to Rachel's directing, you know, and getting those performances out of them and what's there. So it's really fun. But yeah, I again love producing. So this is such a wonderful thing where I get to write my crazy ideas, I get to direct, but then I also get to produce for these wonderfully talented people and learn, you know, and watch them, you know, at their craft and try and like, oh God, now I have to be even better. Like, how am I going to compete with in my own movie? You know, like it's like a weird thing. So, which is really, really fun. And really, it's such an honor to get to do.
It's like being a teacher, being a producer, really, isn't it? And it's like calling in like all these people from your class and seeing them grow and learning from them and everything, because everything they're doing is just enhancing what you're doing as well. And yeah, it's brilliant. I have to say that the last segment was my favorite. I thought the kids were absolutely spot on. It was brilliant. I was just laughing all the way through it. I loved it.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, wonderful. And yes, it is. Producing is Cameron always says it's herding cats. But yes, you know, a little bit of that, and you're kind of like a therapist, and you're kind of, it's a lot of different things. So yeah.
Holy shit. It's a beer pong table. I wouldn't do that if I were you. It's about the numbers.
The Benjamins?
What? No, the creepy hooded guy in the video said that the poison would do a number on us. There are numbers on the sides of the cups.
Okay, so we take the antidote, we put it in the cups, and we drink it.
In the correct cup, and you're fine, but in the wrong cup? Probably something like that.
Okay.
So you've mentioned in previous interviews that you'd like to keep the format that you have with kind of the newer people coming in, but that you'd also like to do almost like a masters of, you know, like an all-stars, because you said something about that you'd had some more like iconic people approach you, but you wanted to keep it as is, which is cool. But if you could pick your 5 top directors to come in and do like a Masters All-Star Best of, who would you pick?
Oh my God, by 5. I mean,
5.
You know, like, I mean, well, if it's like truly like any 5, I'd want like John Carpenter, you know, and Jordan Peele and all that. I mean, I think you know, but that doesn't even make sense. I think we do want to do a Scare Package All-Stars kind of thing as like a joke, you know, in a way, but with like some folks that, you know, like I went to film school with Adam Wingard, you know, who did You're Next and The Guest and stuff. So
love him.
Yeah. So I thought of Adam. I you know, hung out a little bit with Ty West back in the day. So like some people like that, what I think would be a lot of fun to kind of bring that era of horror. Maybe even like Adam Mortimer. You know, there's a few folks that I think would be a lot of fun. Even I see your Terrifier shirt, you know, Damien would be a blast because we focus so much on the gore, you know, and the practical effects. Like, what would he do if he only, I mean, granted, he's made great shorts too, but like, what would he do, you know, in 12 minutes when I'm like, you know, like you just got to go for the biggest effect you can. That would be a lot of fun. So, you know, yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great. It'd be great. So it's just, you know, I think selfishly, I get to produce these segments. Now I get to learn from these like amazing people. So that's what will be fun. But I think there's something about Scare Package that I want to keep is this DIY feel. And it wasn't intentional at the beginning. It was just like, okay, these are people I want to work with, because we also hadn't done much. So it was like, this is where my connections took me. But then from there, you know, it's like, you know, it kind of feels like we should be giving people who maybe haven't done, or if they have done a feature, it's been a while, or haven't done one yet, and they're kind of like expanding and kind of, you know, building up their career. I just think that's a good sweet spot of like this, because you feel this pure joy that comes through. And you know, there's some folks, filmmakers remain nameless, but like, you know, in other anthologies that kind of come in and it feels like they're maybe slumming it and like, okay, yeah, I'll do this real quick. And not all, there's plenty that are like, oh my God, they brought it, you know, but there's some that don't. And I like the idea that people are coming at it with like, I gotta nail this because this is my shot to show people, you know, and I can reach a wider audience and get those opportunities. And we have this, you know, we really hope to see scare package filmmakers making all their features, you know, that's really important to us. And maybe we're making them. I mean, we did it with Emily Higgins. Her next feature, Sorry About the Demon, comes out January 19th. She made Cold Open from Scare Package 1. Noah Segan, you know, did his segment in Scare Package 1, and now we produced Blood Relatives for him that was just released.
Love that. Brilliant film. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're doing another one with Chris McEnroy, who made the Goo Guy segment in the first one. You know, and now we're developing things with other filmmakers from the second one as well. So it's just, it's that's part of the whole bigger package of all this. Package, Jesus, if you will.
Yeah. That's really cool. I'd love to see Adam Green and Joe Lynch do something for you. I think that would be amazing.
That's funny. So originally they were going to be in Scare Package 2. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they were going to show up. There was like a row of horror icons, and it was like, you know, all these names of like the greatest horror directors that were alive, and just like blanks on the seats. And then at the end, you know, you just see Adam Green and Joe Lynch, and they're like, we're the only ones that showed up to this shit, you know? And then they end up in the room where they're puking, and then they start arguing with each other like they do. And then he's just like, whatever, like, you know, they start doing this, and then they vomit on each other and kill each other. And we were so close to making it happen. And then at one point, Joe was going to be able to do it, but Adam couldn't, and all this. But yeah, they're pals, and yeah, so no, yes, I would love to have them. We'd love to have them in it too. Yeah, absolutely.
I love Adam and Joe. They are just so cool, and I just think they've got that perfect silly humor that they could bring to it as well. So
yeah, no, they get it. They totally get it. Yeah. They would get the world. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Next question. What is harder, making people jump, making people scream, or making people laugh?
God, how about just making something, period? But just like getting it made, and then you're like, I really hope you do something. Any emotion. Yes, please just react to me. I'm desperate. I need it. I need your love. Yeah, you know, I think I think you can set up scares in a way that are proven that can work. There's a formula to a scare. There's not a formula to a joke, other than a setup and a payoff. But even the setup and the payoff, humor is subjective. So it just, you know, and there's people who are like, this is the dumbest shit. Like some letterbox reviews of Scare Package 2 are like the meanest things I've ever read. I'm like, you are so, it's like, it's just unbelievably mean. And I read all of them because I'm a masochist. And but at that, I'm just like, wow, like you just hate this style of humor. Like, why are you watching this? Like, watch the trailer then. Like,
why are you doing to yourself?
It's not for you, clearly, you know. But you know, hey, our rule is if it makes like our core group, you know, Paper Street Pictures, our team, if it makes us laugh, it goes in, and that's it. And then I still laugh watching stuff, so that's there. So, but I think it is hard, you know, comedy. I always get nervous. And it's crazy because we played this all around the world. You know, we premiered in London at Fright Fest, and then we were in Brussels, and I was in Helsinki, and I've been, you know, across Canada and in the Midwest of the States, and different jokes land and don't in different places. And like, I'm like waiting for like, oh, this crowd reaction. And then like, oh, that was nothing. Then there's something else somewhere else. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the part that like, okay, let's just get through this little stretch. They're not going to laugh at this way. And then all of a sudden they're cracking up, and I'm like, oh, what the hell, you know? So you just can't predict it. And that makes it a little, I would say, getting the laughs a little harder.
Definitely. Yes. I think that's complete. Fear is subjective too, but you know that there are some universal things, and you say like a jump scare, even if you're not frightened of it, still 9 times out of 10 you know how to make someone go, oh, I wasn't expecting that. But comedy is so difficult. It really is.
Yeah, it's
But
tricky.
I think the majority, especially people going into this as a sequel, the majority of people have probably seen the first one. They know the kind of shtick that that they're going to expect, and they're there for the ride. And a lot of horror fans are like that anyway. We like silliness.
Yeah, well, I do too. Look, I love A24 horror and all that, but I think there is something to be said about fun horror. And we have a motto. We're about to actually make like shirts and stuff, but our whole motto is horror with heart. That's like a big thing for us. So, I think, and that could be levity, that could be fun, that could be something that that's really moving and heartfelt, truly heartfelt. But yeah, I think I think horror can be fun and silly, and you don't have to necessarily be scared. I don't think Scare Package is scary. I mean, Jed's gets a little scary at times, and there's like one or two other jump scares, but like for the most part, it's just meant to be a fun escape. That's it. That's all it's supposed to be.
That's why one of my favorite films is Brain Dead, or Dead Alive, as you have in.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Not remotely scary, but
it's
honestly,
perfect.
Just laugh all the way through it. Yeah.
It's perfect. Dead Alive and Evil Dead 2 are probably the two most influential films to this series, and then Scream later in the meta-ness of that. That trio is Scare Package, in every way. And one day I'll have a 10th of any of those budgets, including even Brain Dead, and then we can, show what we're able to do fully. But yeah, that's perfect movie.
Okay. What was your favorite effect? And then I just want to say mine is I loved the bee sting. Just all starts pussing and then just explodes. Thought that was an amazing effect. And one of my favorite shots isn't a special effect, but I just loved the way that it was filmed. It's in one of your bits actually, and it's where Jessie is just they're in the video shop bit, and she's just like limboing under, like, is it his sword or what, a machete or something? And it's just the way that it's shot, like, and it goes slow-mo as she goes under. That was a chef's kiss shot. I just loved that so much.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Oh, that makes me happy. Yeah, I'm very proud of that moment. So my DP, Andrew Baird, and we talked about how we wanted like a Bayhem, like a Michael Bay style. Like, how do you, if Jessie as our final girl is going through this like character arc where she becomes this like, Ripley style, final girl, she needs to become this badass. And like this idea that all of a sudden it like snaps and then she's like doing this crazy stuff. So we're like, how do we do something? We can't, we have a stunt person for like a day. What can we do here? And, how can we make this work? And we did test of it with Star Wars toys, trying to like, test it out and see like how the camera would move. But I wanted to do that bullet time, like speed up, slow down, move around. Yeah. And it's hard, it was a hard thing to pull off, but it does. I just wanted to have moments in the movie where you're like, are we watching a low budget movie? Like, this feels like this is bigger set piece.
Yes.
Crazy thing you're doing. And it just feels so crazy. And I watched even the shot after that when she stands up is like basically the Bad Boys 2 shot where they're like, that whole thing. Like, it's just stuff like that I'm just, and they're tropes. That's the other thing. These things are still tropes. And even though that's more of an action trope, those things exist in horror films as well. I mean, there's like, you have Busta Rhymes roundhouse kicking in slow motion, to like Michael Myers and whatever Halloween that was, and it's like, these types of shots are just insane, like fire in the background and all this. So yeah, that was a huge setup and stuff to do, and what was there. I mean, God, I don't know. There's so many random things. Probably my favorite is Sam coming through the TV and the Dream Warriors bit and everything.
Yes.
Just because it was so hard to do. We're blue screening him below. We're building this frame of the TV. He's makeup, it's like 100 degrees, makeup's melting off. We couldn't shoot with the actors in the room at the same time because of how long it was taking to do. So literally, every time the actors are reacting, that's me standing up there being Sam. And then every time Sam's talking to people, that's me going around the room, creating different eye lines and just talking shit back to Sam and riffing, and we're just, going. And that's how my voice ended up becoming the puppet inadvertently, because he was arguing with the puppet, and that's just me yelling back at him, because Sam, played by Byron Brown, is such a brilliant improv actor that I was like, let's just lean into this. And I know how to kind of egg him on and push him and get these things. And he's literally the funniest person I've ever met. So we were able to lean into that and make it something special. So yeah, pulling that off and the fact that it actually worked and we got the syringe fingers and we practically push him through that. We could only do it, I think, twice because the slit and the way that, so we're practically pushing his head through this thing. And I'm like, okay, this is it. If it doesn't work, like we're going to cut and he's just going to magically be there or something that's stupid. So I'm so glad we pulled it off. But that's credit to David Greathouse and Nathan Bright, my makeup effects people that really nailed that.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And that actually leads me nicely on to my next question, which was two of my favorite films, which is Dog Soldiers and Terrifier 2, have a ton of homages, and I love the ones that are subtle and the ones that are not so subtle, like obvious nods to other films. There's so many by design in Scare Package 2, obviously, but are there any obscure ones that the average viewer might not pick up on the first time?
Yeah, I mean,
probably hundreds, but
there's a ton. Well, I will say on the Blu-ray, we're going to be doing, like, if you remember VH1's pop-up video, we like watch a video, we're doing a version of a movie like that where it's horror references. So like it pops up on the screen for all the references. So that'll be really fun. We just got that finalized. And I'm very excited about it. But yeah, there's a My Girl line reference that I don't at the beginning where she's at the at the casket. There's there's an entire scene from Drive, Nicholas Winning referenced Drive, the elevator scene, which is one of my favorite scenes of cinema in the past 10 years. And I was like, well, it started out as an homage to The Bodyguard because he was a bodyguard and all that. And I just think the end of The Bodyguard where he jumps and blocks, was so funny. Yeah. So there's things like that. The one that I don't think everybody gets is Graham Skipper's dance is Crispin Glover's dance from Friday the 13th Part 4. And it's exactly there. And I think people know the Crispin Glover dance, but they don't know the moves enough to realize that that's the exact same thing. So at some point, like on Twitter or something, I'll do like a video and show them side by side. I'm like, by the way, that's fun. Yeah, we there's just so many packed in there. And there's, when he's like, or it's just those damn enchiladas, that's a Friday, I think, Part 5 line. There's a lot of little things like that.
That's so cool. And as a horror nerd, I love all of that kind of stuff. When I wrote Sausages, the Making of Dog Soldiers book with Neil Marshall, and Neil was like that all the way through Dog Soldiers. This was something to do with Escape from New York, and this was something to do with this, and this was it, and like the way he blocked the actors were exact, like nods to different films and things, and I think it's perfect. I love that so much.
Oh yeah, a brilliant movie too. Yeah, and I love Neil. Got to meet him this past year, and really, really sweet soul.
Did you meet him at Fright Fest?
Yeah, we were both mentors for the Bloodlist group.
Yes, of course. Yeah, because I was actually at Fright Fest the day that Scare Package premiered as well, because I was there for Neil for the Lair.
For the Lair. Mm-hmm.
And I was supposed to meet Jed as well, but because I live quite far from London, I had to leave early to get the train, so I missed you all. So it was difficult.
Okay.
But I was there.
Oh,
okay. So my next question was whether an all-star or whether you go on to your part 3, who would be some dream actors that you'd love to have in any of the segments?
Well, I'll say right now, I tried like hell to get Heather Langenkamp in this one.
And
we were close. We almost made it happen. So that was something. Barbara Crampton and I are pals, and I've tried to bring her in as well.
Love Barbara.
Bonnie Aarons was someone I was going to try and get in at one point. There's a few. I will say too, so I really want to bring back, if I can do a third one, I want to bring back John Michael Simpson, who played Mike Myers in the first movie. Like, I really want to bring him back, but he had a scheduling conflict, so we couldn't do that. And then, goodness, there's just I love actors. Like, I have such an affinity for what they do and such an appreciation. There's like so many people. Zachary Knighton was someone who was in The Pale Door with me, and is such a funny guy. He was the lead in the show Happy Endings. And I'm like, man, I wish I could bring Zach in here, and like him and Rich Sommer, could have so much fun together. So yeah, there's a handful. There's a couple. I will say, we're really trying to make this third one if we can. And there is an actor that I will have in the third one, but I can't say who that is yet because it's like a pretty big surprise. But
Awesome.
would be pretty awesome. Oh, and I will say I did try to get Crispin Glover in as well. I tried it, but the reason why he wouldn't do it, and I guess I can say this, was he didn't want to do the dance. So I was going to bring him back to do his own dance.
Yeah.
But that wasn't going to happen. Unless it was like ridiculous money. I was like, never mind. Okay.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's cool. Okay. What is the best and what is the hardest part of making an anthology rather than a feature?
Well, I mean, first you're just making like 5 different movies. We don't do this where people are working and they like basically they get to lock picture, which they're doing with us and our notes and where we're at, and we develop them all together. So you've got to get to that point, and then from there it's an assembly line of like going through the score process, going through the sound design process, going through the color process, because we have the same people that are working on that to create some cohesion and all of it, and that just slows it down to such a halt at the end, and it gets really, really hard. It's like a lot of hurry up and wait and hurry up and wait. And I would say I think of an anthology, especially now that we've done it a couple times, and we have another anthology that we're making separate from this, and it's very much like I have a TV show that we're doing now on as well, and it's kind of like show running. I think is probably the best example, because you're just bringing in directors, you kind of keep a cohesive vision the whole time. So it's definitely a tricky thing. I mean, we've made almost 20 films at this point, and anthology scare package movies are probably 2 of the 3 or 4 hardest of all of them. So, and they're the lowest budget, so I mean, it's people think you can just like, oh, I made a short, I can do that 5 times. Like, it's just not. I mean, yes, you could go and license 5 shorts, but where's the fun in that? I mean, like, go make this whole thing from the ground up, and that's what we force ourselves to do that.
Yeah, definitely. You have to want to make an anthology. Yeah. Because they are hard. They are damn hard work. Yes,
very much so.
Okay, right. Just a couple of questions to finish off with. What were some of your own favorite movies of last year, and what are some movies that you're looking forward to this year?
Other than our own films, like
yes, other than your own.
Blood Relatives, and yeah, I mean, probably my favorite genre film is Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's what's my favorite film period of the year. And then, I mean, Nope, but then as far as smaller films, I really loved, I loved The Harbinger, Andy Mitten's film. I thought that was really great. Obviously I love what Ty West did in X and Pearl. Those are brilliant. I really liked Orphan First Kill.
I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard good things. Yeah,
I just think it's just batshit, and I love it. I mean, like, it takes a turn halfway through that I did not see coming, and it's just like, oh, so good, so
awesome.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I see everything, so it's hard to say. I mean, there's just, and I don't make lists, so I try to, like, I used to be like list crazy, but now I just try to like celebrate everything, and I don't want to like rank them and all that, except for Everything Everywhere All at Once is like it. And then for TV, it's like The Rehearsal. Like, those 2 things are just like on a level to me that I'll just aspire to for the rest of my life.
Everything Everywhere All at Once was just, I just sat with I think my jaw on the floor for most of it. I mean, not only was it incredibly clever, but from a filmmaking perspective, just, my God, the work that went into every single shot was just insane. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it's like that and Avatar were like the 2 movies that I'm like, I don't know how they did this. Like, I literally don't know how they pulled all this shit off. So, and as far as like new films, like, I mean, I will say Plug Shelby Oaks, we're extremely excited about.
Yes,
I think
yes.
people, it's going to be, and it's going to make a splash. And then, you know, I mean, oh God, the Evil Dead Rise, trailer just came out, and like that blew me away. I can't wait for that and to see what's going on there. God, I don't know. I don't even know for sure what's coming out next year anymore. So I'm a little out of the loop. Like I remember I knew Nope was coming out for like a year. Oh, Oppenheimer I know is coming out. But that's not really a horror film. But yeah, I don't even know. What should I be looking forward to? I don't even know.
That's exciting though. That means when you suddenly see things appear on your radar, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's coming out. Awesome.
It's usually like friends films that I know about already, you know, in some sort. But yeah, outside of that world, like it's so insular of like we're just making our own stuff so much, so it's hard to even know like, oh sweet, you guys did something too. You know. Yeah.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to Shelby Oaks because I know that Blair worked behind the scenes on that, and Blair's obviously a very, very good friend of mine, as is Emily Bennett. So I know that she was working on that as well. So yeah, so it's going to be one of those films where I'm like, oh, I know you, and I know you, and that's exciting.
Two wonderful women in the genre, in any genre, whatever they decided to do, that I'm honored to know and call friends and work with. So yeah, it's wonderful. They're great. They both made that experience and that movie better. Yeah,
that's so wonderful because they're both really good friends of mine as well. So I love hearing that.
Yeah.
And then finally, what's next for you? Although you kind of said, and where can we find you? Where can people follow you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at Aaron B. Koontz everywhere, you know, and then there's at Paper Street Pictures, and there's at Scare Package. So we've got socials for all that. And then, God, I mean, the next movie, you know, Old Man came out in October, Blood Relatives November, Scare Package December. We have Sorry About the Demon here in January, and then we will announce a film here in like a week or 10 days or so. That's going to come out in March. So we don't have a February one. I need a February one to keep the streak going. And you know, and then we've got Shelby Oaks. I have A Creature Restoring, which is Chrissy Metz from This Is Us, and Scout Taylor Compton, and Elise Basso.
I love Scout. Scout's awesome.
Yeah, she's brilliant. That's a Christmas horror thing that Damien I almost said Leon, but that's it from The Cleansing Hour, Damien Levesque. And goodness, yeah. Oh, we have The Bunker with Tony Todd and Tobin Bell. It's a sci-fi horror. Oh, we have Trim Season that's coming out. That's like kind of like a witchy weed horror thing about some trim season workers who get involved in some shit, we'll just say. But that's with Alex Esso and Bex Taylor Klaus and Ali Ionitis. Goodness. Yeah, and then we have my big thing I'm doing. I have my next feature that we're casting for right now. That's another horror comedy. And then hopefully Scare Package 3, if enough people keep talking about it. We're working on those ideas and getting those finalized, but I have a pretty good base of what I want to do. And then our big thing is hopefully a TV show that we're like this close. So we'll see. Hopefully I get the word here soon that it's official. But yeah.
And at some point you get to be able to sleep and eat and do normal things like that as well.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you know, maybe on set, hopefully. Yeah.
In between all of those amazing things that you have going on. Yeah. That's incredible. An incredible schedule of things going on. And just like kudos to you to be doing all of that, you know, living the indie filmmaker dream, definitely.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely, 10-year-old me would be proud, you know, so I'll continue to take that. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about the film, or anything at all that we haven't covered that you just wanted to plug before we say goodbye?
No, I mean, there's the puppet right back there.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, no, I just really appreciate that people are watching it and finding an escape with this, and hopefully it's a movie that embraces new horror fans, where you're evangelizing the references that others don't know, rather than saying and shunning someone for like, how do you not know that? You know, let's let's make it gateway, not gatekeeping.
Yes.
And I think that's important to me. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Janine. It's just really, really great. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, Aaron.
All right. Cheers.